The minute you make that phone call, they are looking for a way to get rid of you. You better speak with a whistleblower law firm first.
A record amount of money was just recently awarded in a whistleblower case. Could information you have also lead you to get a big award? Well, we're going to find out on today's episode of Ask the Lawyer. Hi again, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com, and my guest is attorney Jason T. Brown, based in New Jersey. Jason, good to see you again. Thank you for helping us out again today.
Good morning. Thank you again for having me.
So let's just talk a little bit. First of all, tell us about this recent record whistleblower award. What happened?
Well, there was a $114 million award awarded to one whistleblower who had the courage and conviction, I would say, to come forth, but to present the information through a whistleblower lawyer to the SEC regarding a matter of importance. And it certainly has been a priority of the SEC to crack down on wrongful conduct in the industry. And when I fail to state the individual's identity, who is the one receiving the money, it's because the SEC has a remarkable program in which whistleblowers can stay anonymous from start to finish.
Wow, and that's unusual in the whistleblower area?
It is unusual. A lot of times in different areas in whistleblower law, attorneys try creative methods to shield the identity of the whistleblower, which you can do for protracted periods of time. But something, for example, in the False Claims Act, at the end of the day, the identity may be disclosed, would be if the person uses their name in the complaint. With the SEC program, if you use an SEC whistleblower lawyer, the individual can stay anonymous from start to finish.
The thing I can't stop thinking about, Jason, is if the award that whistleblower got was $114 million, how much, because that's only like usually a percentage of whatever the big loss to the government was. I mean, I just can't help but think how big that was.
Well, the government hasn't yet proclaimed the total recovery publicly, but it's generally the award the whistleblower can get in an SEC action is from 10 to 30% of which the government recovers. That's attributable to the information from that particular whistleblower.
So let's talk about
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, let's talk about how somebody becomes an SEC whistleblower. Is it similar to other whistleblower cases?
It is, but it's also very discreet in the areas of information that individual needs to be privy to. It generally has to be information in which the individual has that involves an SEC regulated, governed type of interest or profession. Some examples are accounting fraud, money laundering, inside trading. An example I like to use is if you've ever seen the movie Wall Street. A lot of times this involves Wall Street itself. And Gordon Gekko in that movie gives a famous line where he says, greed is good.
Right.
And when the company thinks that greed is good and puts the interest of the company ahead of the interest of its clients, a lot of times there will be something that's actionable in the SEC context. And if not the SEC context, a critical analysis theory from a quality whistleblower law firm will understand whether or not it's actionable to attack it from a different context as well.
So if somebody thinks they've got information about wrongdoing, let's stick with the SEC, the very first thing they should do is contact an attorney who has experience in this area?
They certainly should. They need to go to a whistleblower law firm, an SEC whistleblower law firm. There's a handful with track records in the country that if you do your due diligence, you could find out. It's important to interface and interact with the SEC in the right way. Our background with me as head of the firm, as a former FBI special agent, so we dealt with crossover from the criminal perspective from the SEC versus the regulatory. But you certainly want to deal with a firm that knows what they're doing. This week alone, we just closed a case for an individual who had an SEC component, and we were able to get that individual in principle, and the ink hasn't dried yet, but over $500,000 for their particular settlement.
So I think we've already touched on my next question, but what they have to gain is some monetary award for these whistleblowers.
Oh, absolutely. In the SEC program alone, we just talked about the $114 million for one individual, which really tips the scale about how well this program has been going since it's only been in creation since 2012. And since 2012, there's been over $700 million awarded to whistleblowers for doing the right thing. And that's just if the firm is linear thinking and just attacks it from an SEC perspective. There's also billions that have been awarded in the False Claims Act perspective. And if you're smart, intuitive, and understand the fact patterns, for example, individuals in the financial space may know what individuals are doing with, for example, PPP loans.
Right.
They may be taking the money that's purposed for employees and with their fiduciaries, then putting it to themselves in some capacity. And insiders in the industry may be able to blow the whistle on conduct like that as well. Wouldn't be an SEC violation, SEC whistleblower, but could be a False Claims Act whistleblower. So you need to go to a firm that has not just tunnel vision on, but understands the big picture, how to maximize the potential opportunity if you have information about wrongful conduct.
So yeah, I was going to say, so that individual person may not need to understand the big picture, but that's why they hire somebody like yourself that does understand all the intricacies involved.
Absolutely. A lot of times when we do an initial intake, people gloss over what the substantial part of the case is. And they may think it's not that relevant, it's not that important. Oh yeah, we're paying people kickbacks to get business, but everybody's doing it. So I don't want to talk about that. And that may be the core crux of the case. And they may not even realize it. A lot of times the corruption is so institutional, so incestual, people are seasoned and taught that this is proper. They don't even think for a second that it could be improper. So if we have a candid conversation with our clients where they feed us the information and we have a candid discourse back telling people what their rights are and potential avenues of recovery, it generally, if there's a path, it generally can be a very fruitful conversation and enriching conversation at the end of the day.
You mentioned the anonymity in the SEC whistleblowers. Does the whistleblower have to worry that their employer is going to find out at any point in the process?
With the SEC, technically under the rules, if they use an SEC whistleblower attorney, while it's not 100% guaranteed, we're not aware of any instances in which somebody has been outed. In contrast, with litigation or even a QTAM under the False Claims Act, something very interesting happens because this is an administrative regulatory agency, the SEC. Mm-hmm. Defendant is never served a copy of any complaint unless the SEC wants it to. So if you file something, you come up short and they say it's wrong, well, they're not served. It's not a public docket with your name on it or anything like that. So even though I can't pronounce anonymity very well, I can tell you that it's a great feature to be anonymous if you want to with a case along this line. And the second point is, if at some point, for whatever reason, somebody's identity is disclosed or the whistleblower does want to attach their name to it, there's very strident protections under the law for whistleblowers under the SEC whistleblower program. And I know from speaking to the chief of the SEC whistleblower program that they are looking to make an example of somebody if they do retaliate against the whistleblower. And our firm always looks to make examples of companies that are engaged in egregious wrongdoing. We protect whistleblowers. We strongly protect whistleblowers. It is a focus of our practice. If somebody does something to somebody we represent, we try to hit back much harder than they do.
Two more quick questions, Jason. So I know a lot of these big companies, they probably have an internal whistleblower line. If you know of wrongdoing, call this 800 number. What's your advice there? Should they do that? Should they do that and contact a firm like yours, or contact an attorney first?
Oh, I always chuckle when I hear that because that's a one-way ticket to getting yourself fired. Mm-hmm. Call that anonymous line. And the age of big tech, everybody knows everything. The minute you make that phone call, they are looking for a way to get rid of you. You better speak with a whistleblower law firm first before making that phone call. Doesn't have to be our firm, but from everything I've seen, they conduct mole hunts. They know exactly who is calling, and they sometimes try to pin it on the person that makes that call. Make that person be the fall guy or fall girl. Speak with a law firm first so you understand your rights, your strategies, whether or not you need to exit depending upon how egregious the conduct is. But don't call a line that will ultimately probably get you fired at the end of the day.
And is there a cost to the whistleblower to commence action when they contact your firm?
With our firm, the wonderful part is there's no fee unless we win the case. We will extensively consult and speak with individuals about their rights and different options. Another great part about our firm is we mentioned that a lot of the misconduct from the SEC is in Wall Street. We're at Wall Street West. So right now, as I'm looking at you, if I slightly look out the window, we're looking over the Hudson at Wall Street. We're in a discrete location, very accessible 6-minute subway ride from Wall Street West, where if it were not the age of Zoom and phone calls, you could come on in and discreetly talk to us and not worry that you're going to run into anybody and have to do some explaining. But the bulk of the consultations we do anyway at this point are telephonic.
Sure. Super interesting information. As always, Jason, thank you so much for taking some time and answering our questions.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been attorney Jason T. Brown. Remember, if you'd like to get the very best information or you'd like to make sure you can choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, visit AskTheLawyers.com first. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with Ask the Lawyers.